Good morning, students. Today we discuss about static and dynamic routing. So before going to this, so you know what is routing? What is routing? So routing is a process to establish the path between the source and destination. So which is in the third layer, of OSI model. In OSI model, we have 7 layers. So topmost layer is presentation layer, bottommost layer is physical layer. So in the 7 layers, the third layer is routing. So they're going to provide the path, or they're going to establish the path between source and destination. So once the paths are established, the data is transferred from source to destination. So that is routing. There are two types of routing. One is static routing, another is dynamic routing. So we'll see one by one. So static routing. Static routing is a process, the process in which we have to manually add the routes. Manually add the routes between the source and destination. Manually add the routes between the source and destination in the routing table. Since the static routing manually configured, the administrator is going to configure the static routing. Administrator is going to configure the static routing. They are going to provide the source, destination, and then what is the next stop address, network address, everything they're going to configure manually. So once the configuration is over, they're going to transfer the data from source to destination. So it is also called, the static routing is also called a non-adaptive routing. Non-adaptive routing. So that is the network administrator can able to changes, modify everything in the table manually. So that's why it is called a non-adaptive. It's not adapt the one. Okay. So we need a network administrator. So that is static routing. Static routing means statically or manually we are going to add the route between source and destination. So that is static routing. It provides the more complex algorithm. It does not use more complex algorithm. It provides more security than the dynamic routing. Provides more security than the dynamic routing. The static routing operation can be divided into 3 parts. One is the network administrator configure the route. The network administrator is going to configure everything, source, destination, path, everything they're going to configure. And then router install the route in the routing table. The router is going to install all the possible routes from source to destination that is going to be installed in the routing table, and then packets are routed from static route, the default route. What are the routes we have? So in this one, we are going to, the data is going to be transferred. So next, this is the example. So here, two network is this one network, this is another network. Here, this network address is 192.168.10.0. So this is another network. This another network is 192.168.20.0. So we want to transfer data from this network, that is 10.0 to 20.0. So in this, we are going to provide the static routing. In the static routing, we are going to provide the network address of your destination. So the destination address is 20.0, 192.168.20.0. Then this is a class C network. So that's why we use the default mask is default mask subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. So the default subnet mask, and the next hop address. Next hop address is via. So where the root address. Okay, root address is 192.168.30.2. So the data from this 10.0 network to 30.0 network via this desktop address 192.168.30.2. So we can able to add this network. The network is going to be added. After that, the data is transferred from source to destination. So vice versa, the destination to source. This is the 192.168.20.0 is the source, and then 192.168.10.0 is the destination. So like that way, we are going to add the address like this, network address, mask address, and the next hop address. So based on that, the data is going to be transferred. Here, the network administrator is going to configure manually. So that's why it is called a static routing. Statically, it is manually designed, manually add the everything. So that's why it is called a static routing. So there are some advantages and disadvantages in this one. So in advantage, no routing overhead. Okay, if you go for static routing, there is no routing overhead. So that is which is a very cheaper route. Okay, which is a very cheaper router can be used to routing. Second, it adds a security. It provides a more security because only one person can involve in this one. It is network administrator. He is the responsible person. So no other peoples are involved in this way. So in this routing. So that's why it is a very secured routing. And then there is no bandwidth usage. There is no much bandwidth usage in this method. So these are the various advantages. Some disadvantages also there. So disadvantages, if you go for very large network, it is very hectic to do the connection manually. So that is the major drawback. And also if new network admins come, they are going to connect manually, which is very tough. So that's why we have some disadvantage as well as the advantages. So next, dynamic routing. So dynamic routing in the sense, based on the current state of the route, they're going to provide the path between the source and destination. That is dynamic routing. So dynamic routing makes the adjustment, automatic adjustment of the static routes according to the current state of the routing table. So here we use the famous two protocols like RIP and OSPF. RIP and OSPF. RIP means routing information protocol. OSPF is open shortest path protocol. Open shortest path. Both the protocols used for to do the routing in the dynamic routing protocols. These are the two dynamic routing protocols for source and destination, which is a adaptive one. Okay, which is also called dynamic routing protocol. It's also called adaptive routing protocol. Adaptive means which changes the routing table according to the changes the topology. Okay, if you change the topology, so based on that, automatically it will adapt. So whatever the changes are made in the particular topology, so based on that, the routing table is going to be altered. So this it will be do automatically. So that's why it is a adaptive routing protocol or adaptive routing. Dynamic routing is also called adaptive routing. It is some advantage, disadvantages is there. It is easy to configure. It is easy to configure. Then it is more effective at selecting best route to a source to destination, from source to destination. Source to destination. Some disadvantages there. It consumes more bandwidth than static routing, and then it has a less secure than the static routing. Static routing, we are manually provide the source to destination address. In dynamic routing, it automatically takes the shortest path between the source and destination. So that's why there is no security involved in this one. So this is dynamic routing. Dynamic routing. So next, what is the difference between static routing and dynamic routing? Static routing. Static routing, it is a static routing routes the user defined. Okay, user is going to provide a manual. Manually they're going to provide everything. So in dynamic routing, routes are updated according to the topology. So it is a dynamic routing. Second point, static routing does not use complex routing algorithm. In dynamic routing, uses the complex routing algorithm. Third, the static routing provides high and more security. They're going to provide more security. And then in dynamic routing, there is no security, provides very less security. So static routing is a manual one. It's manually, you're going to configure. Dynamic routing, it is fully automatic. Then fifth point, the static routing is implemented in small type of networks. If you go for a large type of network, very hectic to do the process. In dynamic routing, it is implemented all type of networks like small to large type of networks. Then sixth point, the static routing additional resources are not required. There is no need of additional resources here. They need some additional resources for connecting source to destination. And then in static routing, failure of link disturbs the rerouting. In dynamic routing, not like that. It will not affect anything. If any node is going to get failure, take alternate route to transfer the data. Next, in static routing, it consumes the less bandwidth. But in dynamic routing, it consumes more bandwidth. Then in static routing is very difficult to configure. Dynamic routing, it is very easy to configure because it is automatic. It is easily they're going to configure. And then last differences,